let's dive into the games that we played. The very first game that we got to play was from Darrington Press, Critical Role. It was Candela Obscura. It was fun. We almost accidentally played Daggerheart and then realized at the last second we were in the wrong room.
Whoops.
And so then we went over to Candela Obscura, and that was fun because it was just the four of us. We didn't have to share the table with any normies. And shout out to our GM of that game, Matthew. What was everybody's reactions to Candela?
We should roll a dice to see who talks first here.
Oh.
Well, I got a natural 1, so have fun.
I got a,
we'll see you next stream.
On my teeny tiny dice.
19 for me.
12 for me.
Well, then let me just get into this. So, our friend Tay has heard that Candela Obscura is a blatant ripoff of Blades in the Dark. True or false? Mostly true, I have to say. I will not say it's a blatant ripoff. It has a lot of shared mechanics. A lot. And in some ways, that's going to be very, very easy for people who know the Forged in the Dark system, which is Blades in the Dark's
OS.
Yeah, OS. Yeah, the operating system. You know, it's tough because on the one hand, they wanted a rules light game, and I personally we've never really played it, but I personally really love the mechanic of Forged in the Dark. I think it's really cool. I don't know that they've necessarily said, "Oh, we definitely didn't borrow." I mean, you can see the ancestry, right? Like the creator of Candela, and it's actually called Illuminated Worlds, the actual game system. That Illuminated Worlds was built by a gentleman who created not Blades in the Dark, but some other in the dark thing.
Spoons in the Dark.
Spoons in the Dark. Spooning in the Dark.
Oh.
Anyway.
Sexy time.
Sexy times. So, yes, it was very, very similar to, but just to the point, if you don't like that, then probably you won't love Candela. But lots and lots and lots of style, lots of lore. I don't know. That's my time.
That's my time. I've never played a Blades in the Dark game. I don't have any perspective on that whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I was coming into it pretty like a newborn babe, and as you said, I don't particularly love low. I should say this in a more positive way. I prefer more rules heavy games like D&D. I like, for me and the story to tell, and the dice to tell the story simultaneously. When it's just me making stuff up, that's fine. I like making stuff up, but it's more satisfying when there's an element that's taken out of my hands. So also, I prefer games with D20s.
Yeah,
it just feels more fun. I don't know. There's just something more fun. So it's a D6 game. You have 9 D6s, but I will say this: the worlds of Candela, I would love to go back to. I've long since loved the world of BioShock, and that whole milieu of stuff. So I was super into that. I'd give it another shot. But it's still going to be missing a D20, and I will continue to miss that.
So Tay says, sorry, I've been subjecting y'all to masks, which is along the same lines. We're basically, for those of you who aren't familiar, instead of rolling a D20 and, kind of being on a scale from 1 to whatever your roll plus your modifier is, you kind of roll the D6 and it's like you absolutely fail, you fail with consequences, you succeed with consequences. And I kind of liked that. But as Evan just pointed out, we only had 2 hours. We had a new GM, and that was the biggest thing about GenCon for me overall, is we went to GaryCon earlier in the year, and that is all games run by people who chose to run those games.
Right.
Whereas GenCon is more volunteer run GM wise. And so you get this kind of mixed bag of familiarity. And especially we were playing a brand new game, so everybody's new to it. So I personally would give it another shot. It's great for storytelling. As you both just said, the world was fantastic. But I also can't tell you that I was completely blown away, because we did spend so much of the time just trying to wrap our brains around the mechanics and ask questions over and over again.
Mm-hmm,
Fitz?
Yeah,
What do you think?
I would say that for me, I was just starting to feel like I could understand and fully engage with the mechanics by the time we were finishing. Like by that 2-hour mark, I was like, oh, I think I understand how this works. Like, let me try to tinker, but it was over. So I can't really speak to that, nor have I played Blades in the Dark. So I know people are saying that it is eerily similar, but I couldn't, I can't say whether that is true or not. What I can say is that the sense of the type of game you're playing is very strong. Like the way that they have the lore built and the way that the mechanics, the verbiage, and how that fits in with the lore, very strong. So as far as storytelling goes, that is very easy to just sort of slip into, even if, you know, the mechanics are still not quite there in the brain space yet. As far as like rules light to rules crunch, I would say it probably falls between Masks and 5e. Like, it's not as rules light as Masks or any of those powered by the Apocalypse, but it's not as crunchy as a Pathfinder or a D&D.
And I'll just add one tiny thing for those of you who do know the Blades of Forged in the Dark. One thing that I did like is this concept of a guilt die, where it had special powers.
So they gave us dice to play with. So you get 3 that are this like golden color, and then 6 that are this sort of teal color, so that when you're rolling, you can distinguish without having to think about it too hard which ones go with the gilded die and which ones don't. So that was a really nice touch.
Yeah. Very fun.
Brother, I thought you said guilt with a T.
So did I, actually.
Guilt die. I was like, gosh, I don't remember this mechanic.
Well, we also, from Darrington Press, got to play Queen by Midnight. So if you want to give us another 5 minutes followed by 3 minutes. Are we rolling again, or are we just going in that same initiative order?
Why don't we reverse the initiative order?
Oh,
Let's
okay.
go.
Yeah.
Fitz?
Yeah.
Go Fitz.
Reverse the stream.
Go Fitz. Go Fitz.
Well, and I do feel like out of the 4 of us, I'm probably the most board game passionate-ish, right?
Yeah.
I love me a deck building game, and that is what Queen by Midnight is. It's a deck building game, and frankly, it's beautiful. Like, the pieces are sturdy, and the way that you build this clock tower system to keep track of the turns and to like roll your dice in it. It's a little dice tower. Gorgeous. And it has notches for all the cards. Anyone you talk to who's like a board game enthusiast will also talk about like how the aesthetics and the way that the game is built is just as important as the mechanics. And I gotta say, Darrington Press nailed it in this regard. Just the cards were beautiful. The all of the pieces were really well thought out, and like the way you put your cards out on the table was really made sense. So as far as like it being ready for public consumption, absolutely. And the deck building mechanics, it was a little bit harder than some other deck building games that I've played as far as like figuring out how it works, but I don't know. I had fun playing it. I was sad that no other princesses wanted to ally with me, and I was betrayed in the end.
Same.
But, you know, it's okay, I guess.
Matt.
I know.
Maybe next time I'll be able to make princess friends. But
nope.
Princess friends.
Nope.
Yep. So I am probably the second most board game goblin of all of us.
Yes.
This was my first deck building game. I am a competitor. I really like to compete. I like to win, which is why I like combat. And so I loved it. I loved it start to finish. This was a session where we were definitely figuring it out. We thankfully were seated with 2 other people that were lovely and fun to play with. There were a lot of mechanics that we didn't get out of the gate, but this is hands down one that now I know what to do. I can't wait to play it again. The big 2 things that early in the game, you have to lobby for support. support. There's this mechanic where you're basically trying to get people on your team. And none of us really knew what we were doing, but that's okay. Like next time we know. And then there's this big card you get to play at the end, but you have to think ahead and you have to acquire that card before the last round. Well, I missed that memo. Had I gotten that card, I would have been queen, because in my final round, I had all the right, cards in my hand. I'm laying them down. I'm having so much fun. I'm watching the other guy we're playing with melt down over how many points I'm accruing and taking away from him. So if I'd had the big mama jamma, it would have been me. But that's okay. No regrets. Loved it. Can't wait to own it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Can
queen.
I yes and you just a smidge and say
queen,
that the strategy part of this game is really strong. Because all of the princesses do very different things, so who you ally yourself with matters. We realized after the game was over. And so the game is never going to be the same twice, particularly if you start mixing it up. There's a lot of strategy, and you can play this game a lot before you get bored of it, I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brother?
Yeah. Yeah. All of the above. Now, I'm not a deck building gamer.
Dude.
In fact, I don't think I've ever played a deck building game. I can't even think of another one that is, except for Magic Gathering. Is that a deck building game?
I mean, there's plenty, but yes, Magic is probably the most famous one.
So I nothing to compare it to. Again, it was a little overwhelming to learn at first. I mean, of course, you're in Exhibit Hall D, filled with people. It's very loud, and you have one person who was explaining rules to two groups of people. As soon, whenever she turned to talk to the other table, I had no idea what she was saying. So it's like, oh, okay, I'll just wing it. But once it got into swing, once I kind of got the hang of it, of course, it was just us and a couple of other lovely people. They were really nice. And we got the hang of it. All of that was great fun. I will say this, though. My only thing I thought was kind of odd was, for the first early rounds anyway, it feels like you're just playing by yourself, that everyone's playing a solo game. And that was just you're not interacting much. You're taking your turn, and your turn involves your strategy and doesn't interact. It's not even until like at one stroke of the clock when everyone has to, like you said, enlist other support. Then you're kind of interacting with each other. But before that, you're just doing your thing. Because no one's attacking yet or anything. Anyway, that's my mild, not a negative observation, but just something I noticed. Yeah, maybe that changes as you get better at the game.
Honestly, that's deck building for you. Like any deck building game, the first couple of rounds are you strategizing and getting sort of the way that you're going to beat, and then you start interacting. So, but I do agree with you that with the way that the clock chime system is, with which number you start on based on how many players you are, I would drop, like, if we were to play that game again, even though it said that we needed to start on 4 o'clock, I would start on like 3 o'clock. Or something, because we didn't really get into the heavy interactions until like the last round. And it would have been more satisfying to get another round of heavy hits against each other.
I want earlier blood, man. I want people to draw blood much earlier.
I think we would if we knew more about it.
We were doing.
And I'll just say real quick, I'm gonna focus on all the positives. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful game, like you said. Just beautifully made. The artwork incredibly beautiful, and I feel like this is where I really saw the Darrington Press team shine. Our teacher, she wasn't a GM, but she's literally teaching us how to play. Her name was Bex. So well done. I felt so supported, because I tend to sit down at a board game, get confused with I can't fully pay attention. I get confused, and then I start the game like I have no idea. It's like I have this whole panic mode. Bex was there the whole time. She was so great, and even when she had something about the game that she had been confused about, she was like, yeah. I think that this just needs to be tightened up as far as like the explanation of this. But man, the Darrington Press team from Candela to this was just so freaking pro. So
Yeah.
pro. It took my breath away. A+. A++.
Can I just make a super quick confession that when everybody kept talking about a deck building game, I thought it was literally like Magic where you had to keep buying decks in order to play. So I thought it was just a money grab. I was very thrilled to learn that's not what a deck building game necessarily means.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tay has asked a couple of questions, which I would love to answer.
Yes.
So the comparables, I would say that, so one of my absolute favorite board games or deck building games to play is Tea Dragon Society. It's just the most adorable thing in the entire world. You play these cute little like cartoony animals and they all have their different sign. It's really cute, but that is like the beginner version of Queen by Midnight in the sense of like, if anybody who's played Tea Dragons, like you play through the 4 seasons, and as you play through each season, the cards get better and better. And the way that Queen by Midnight works is at certain clock chimes, you refresh the deck and get stronger and more powerful cards in that regard too. They're more expensive, but they do bigger things. And it has more rules and a little bit more strategy. So if you've played Tea Dragons and you're looking for something that is equally as cute, but maybe a little bit more strategy and a little bit more competitive, Queen by Midnight is a good upgrade for that. And then, yes, we hung out with Ivan Van Norman. He was super cool, super humble. Gave some really good Gen Con advice.
Yeah, he did.
Which I will repeat. Yeah. He said, when going to Gen Con or any con, choose 2 things. 2 things.
Per day.
And if you do those things in a day, everything else is great. You're good to go each day. So just 2 things.
Really great productivity advice in general, honestly. In life.
We definitely went too hard on the setup of our schedule as noobs to the con and didn't know. And, we unfortunately had to nope out of some things, but because we were empowered with that advice, it allowed all of us to look at our schedule and say, what's the thing we have to hit today? And therefore, I think, none of us came back sick. I came back tired, but not like wiped the way I felt
devastated
after Gary. So... so that kind of does it for our Darrington Press. If you guys, unless anybody has any like quick nuggets to share about any of the Darrington Press interactions, games, and then we're going to move on to our next one.
I just wanted to and Matt's praise of Darrington Press as just a fine group of people. I was the dumbass who rolled up at the table without my ticket. All the events at Gen Cons are ticketed, and I thought that my ticket was going to be, I guess, with one of you guys. It's a little bit confusing, the user experience. But I rolled up there, and not only were they incredibly accommodating by allowing me to stay, but they were also apologizing for for my inconvenience or whatever. It's like I'm the asshole in this equation. Thank you, and I'm sorry. So anyway, just wanted to yes and that they were really great.
Amazing.
Yeah, out of everybody we met all weekend. Like, not even that it was 1 or 2 people we met from Darrington that was a good vibe. It was every single person we met at Darrington that we interacted with just obviously wanted us to be there, obviously wanted us to have a good time, wanted genuinely to hear our feedback, and were just cool people. So, absolutely. The best experience as far as a company that we interacted with while we were there.
Yeah, go buy their products.
Yes, support Darrington Press, follow them, love them. Really quickly, for those of us who are joining late, we have a time timer on today, which is the beeping that you hear. We're going to move on from Darrington Press. We wanted to start strong with something that we all found a lot of delight and joy in. And